The unfortunate story of Hans and Greta. I warn you, this story is not for the faint-hearted. Once upon a time, God knows exactly when, probably when the price of cucumbers was very high. A brother and sister, named Hans and Greta, lived in a hut, in the woods with their father. You may think that you have heard this story before, but I assure you, it's not that same story. Their father was a poor and useless woodpecker. His wife, their mother, had moved far away, in search of better career opportunities, and hadn't returned back since. Their father thought he would not be lonely anymore when he finally downloaded a dating app, met another lady online and fast-forward remarried. But the new stepmother made life very hard for Hans and Greta. The children were not allowed to eat healthy food, such as chocolate, and drink Dr. Pepper. Most of the time, there was salad and tuna for them to eat. And all day long, they were busy with their PlayStation. Hans and Greta tried to tell their father about this, but he would not hear of it. It seemed the only one he would listen to was his wife. And all the stepmother talked about was how much trouble it was to have children in the hut, and how much she wished she and her husband moved to Las Vegas, and left the children behind forever. Each day there was less and less chocolate for the boy and girl to eat. Yet, the stepmother gave them more and more tuna and salad. One day Greta begged her father, "Please father, all day long we eat tuna and salad, and we're hungry." But the stepmother slapped her face. "You ungrateful brats," she yelled. "You will eat us out of house and home. Now, get the fog out of this house. I, and your father, have to practice on parallel parking." That night, the two children were not allowed to sleep in the hut. Outside in the cold, they shivered and tried to keep each other warm. Winter was coming, and the clothes they wore were as thin as paper. It felt almost as if they had no clothes on at all. Greta went in to get her coat, but when she saw her father and stepmother practicing yoga, she got shocked and terrified, as she never knew her father was into yoga. The next morning, when the sun rose, Greta turned to her little brother. "Hans," she said, "we cannot stay here. We must escape now, into the woods. Surely, we will find our way to Hollywood, and become famous stars. Then we can buy as much as chocolate and Dr. Pepper we want." "Do you think?" said Hans. "But what if we get lost, and go to Chicago instead?" "We won't," said Greta. "I have Google Map on my phone, and unlimited internet." Then, Greta typed their destination in Google Map, and clicked on directions. And so, the two of them went off into the woods, and left their hard life behind. They went deeper and deeper into the woods. Greta was carefully following the directions on Google Map, holding her phone upside down. On their way, they saw big and posh houses here and there, with signs stuck into the grass, saying, "Donald Biden, for President." After walking in the woods for hours, they got exhausted and hungry, and it was getting dark. Little they knew, that when Greta typed in Hollywood, her phone had auto-corrected it to "Holy cow." As a result, they got lost, and they were heading towards Chicago instead. A bird flew over their heads and took a dump, which landed on Greta's hat, and she cried, "Oh shite. That's a bad luck." Hans and Greta were lost and hungry. Now they were scared too. "Greta," whispered Hans in fear, "what will we do?" She did not know what to say. All she could do was to hug her little brother. Each minute it was getting darker and darker. A wolf howled in the distance. All of a sudden, Greta saw a small light, shining far away. Could it be someone's hut, this deep in the woods? "We must find out," cried Greta. "Maybe whoever lives there is kind and will take us in." When they got closer, They could not believe their eyes. If you can imagine, from top to bottom, the hut was made all of candy. From its gingerbread roof, with frosting all over the walls, and with candies tucked into the frosting. What a sight to see! Greta pulled out her phone, and started filming her silly green alien dance moves in front of the candy house. "What are you doing?" said little Hans, looking shocked. "I am recording a TokTik video," replied Greta. "But, what is TokTik?" asked Hans. TokTik is a mobile application, used by millions of people who are starving for fame. All you need to do, is record yourself doing something silly, and then share it with other people. Then, little Hans joined her, with his hilarious drunk rooster dance, called Chip Chip, and both acted ridiculously silly, until they got tired. "Greta!" Hans cried out. Before Greta could say, "I bet it will be okay if we have just a little taste," both of them were already biting off small chunks and licking the sweet candy. Suddenly, they heard a voice. "Who the heck is nibbling on my house?" Hans and Greta spun around. An old witch came out of the house, with a gun in her hands, pointed at the kids. It's worth mentioning that the old witch had mustaches. "You destroyed my Halloween decoration," she cried. "I had bought it when it was on special offer, from Troll Mart. And what were those silly moves you were doing few minutes ago? I've never seen something disgusting like that." "We were filming a TokTik video," replied Greta. Then, the witch smiled sinisterly under her mustache, and said, "First, I'm going to turn you into candies, and use you as a decoration on my house. Then, I will take your stupid mobile phone, and record a stupid TokTik video, and share it with the entire world." Greta didn't give a heck about being turned into a candy, but she couldn't agree with having her phone taken from her. However, the witch did as she said, and also recorded a TokTik video, which went viral, and received a lot of attention. Then, a famous Hollywood producer contacted the witch, and offered her a contract. The witch became rich and famous, and lived happily for the rest of her life. The end.